you're an accountant or tax professional and you meet with your clients once a year for tax planning, now could be the best time to talk about sales tax to help them eliminate their risk, potentially save some money, and to hopefully save you from some future headaches. So in this video, we're going to talk about sales tax at a really high level and some things that you can look out for when you're meeting with your client to talk about all the things that you're going to be working on with them in the coming year. So I want to talk about what sales tax nexus is, what some common triggers are and things that you should be looking out for, and some money saving tips to hopefully help you and your clients. But first, let's talk about why sales tax is so important for you, the accounting professional and the tax professional. See, a lot of folks don't realize that you could be on the hook if you are not actively and proactively talking about sales tax with your clients. There's actually a case right now that we're following where a group of accountants are being sued by their client because they did not proactively talk about economic nexus and potential sales tax exposure. And the business claims, had their accountant had notified them that they potentially had some exposure, that they could have done things in order to mitigate that risk. So we certainly don't want that to happen to you, and we certainly don't want that to happen to your clients, because if your clients end up having a huge sales tax bill, they might go out of business and they might have a lot harder time paying you for your services. So the very first question that I would ask each of my clients is, when was the last time you had a nexus study, an actual sales tax nexus study done? So in case you're wondering, what is a sales tax nexus study? This is where we're looking at various areas of the business to figure out if there are any states where they might owe sales tax. So what is sales tax nexus? Sales tax nexus is just a legal phrase that means that they've crossed certain thresholds within the state and they now need to begin collecting and remitting sales tax. Now, there are so many different ways that a business can cross these nexus thresholds in a state, but the two most common are going to be crossing economic nexus thresholds and having a physical presence in the state. So let's talk about economic nexus thresholds. The thresholds vary state by state, but generally speaking, if the business has over $100,000 in sales or 200 separate transactions into that state, they're going to have crossed that state's economic nexus thresholds and they're going to need to begin collecting and remitting tax. Now, every state is going to be different regarding their specifics, like what's included in that $100,000. Is it total sales? Is it taxable sales? Do we include resale orders? And also what the time horizon is where we want to include that. Sometimes it's current and prior calendar year. Sometimes it's the last 12 total months. So we've created a free spreadsheet on the TaxValet website. I'll include a link in the description so that you can look at what the particulars are for each state. Now, if you don't want to do that heavy lifting, you can always just refer your client to TaxValet and we'll just take a peek and figure out, is there probably some exposure here? We've got a sales tax nexus preview tool where we can look at some of these factors and see what the hypothetical exposure might be to figure out if it's really worth coming in and doing all the heavy lifting to get sales tax cleaned up. So that's the first thing I'd look at, is economic nexus. The second thing I'd look at is physical presence. So we all know that having employees in a state or having an office in a state is going to create a physical presence. But there's so many other ways that a business can create a physical presence in a state and not even realize it. And yes, physical presence still matters even in a world where we have economic nexus. So, for example, let's say that they have physical presence in a state, but they do not have economic nexus in a state. They still are going to need to collect and remit sales tax. So a few common ways that businesses can create a physical presence in a state would be things like having contractors there. Depending on what the contractor is doing, this can create sales tax nexus. Or, for example, storing inventory in the state. So if you're working with an e-commerce business, this is so important because if they're using third-party fulfillment warehouses, for example, example, maybe they're selling on Amazon FBA. This is going to create a situation where their inventory could be stored all across the country, and they now have a sales tax collection responsibility. Also, exhibiting at trade shows can create sales tax nexus. And this last one, I know it sounds totally ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous, but just advertising online can create sales tax nexus in that state. And there are several states that say just doing any form of advertising here will create nexus. So we've got some great blogs on our website, thetaxvalet.com, where we go through the specifics of this in case you're wanting to check this out for yourself and check out what the state statutes say. But if you don't want to deal with that, you can always send them over to us and we'll take care of them. So let's talk about some money saving tips that you can potentially help your clients with. The first thing I'd look at is your client paying sales tax on any of their inventory purchases? Because if they're purchasing inventory for resale, or maybe raw materials that they're incorporating into the final product, or let's just say cardboard boxes that they're using to pack their items in, these items can be purchased sales tax free if you have the proper resale certificate documentation on hand. It's really complicated to know which form you can fill out and which form you need to provide to the vendor in order to claim this exemption. But this is something that TaxValet handles all day, every day, and we'd be happy to help you out. Another thing I'd look at is how much tax did they collect and how much tax did they actually pay? And this gets a little bit more tricky because what we're looking for is, are they overpaying in sales tax? And you wouldn't believe the number of times that businesses maybe they only collected $7,000, but their system paid $10,000 in tax. And this is where a lot of businesses can get in trouble if they're using cheap sales tax filing software and no one is monitoring it to make sure that this overpayment isn't happening. So those are two things that you can just discuss very briefly with your client to figure out, is it possible that you could be saving some money here? We found with a whole bunch of our clients that just by helping them purchase the inventory tax-free for their business, they are saving tens of thousands of dollars each year, which far, far, far outweighs the expense of hiring a sales tax advisor like TaxValet. So if you have a client that you think could use some sales tax help, maybe they just need a tune-up or need us to check up on them and see if there's any work that needs to be done, feel free to make an introduction to hello@thetaxvalet.com. And I think that would be a great time to mention too that at TaxValet, we're looking to form some really deep partnerships with accountants, bookkeepers, CPAs, and other tax advisors, so we can partner with you for the long haul and provide your clients with really excellent sales tax service. So if you're interested in our partnership program, check out thetaxvalet.com and go to the partner program page. And there you can learn more about our partnership program, see if it's right for you, and also learn about some of the benefits. Some of the things that our partners really enjoy is the fact that they have a dedicated sales tax consultant at TaxValet where you can run questions by them. So if you have questions about a particular client, you can just reach out to us and we'll point you in the right direction. There's also co-marketing opportunities. So we can incorporate you into our newsletter and have you write on our blog, for example, to help boost your SEO. And the other thing that our partners love is that we have a referral incentive where we'll do some revenue sharing because we recognize that it takes time, and time is money, to have these conversations and to collaborate with our sales tax advisors. So we like to sort of sweeten the pot and share some of the revenue for all the clients that you're referring over to us. I hope this helps. If you have any questions about this or any questions about anything related to sales tax for your clients, feel free to send us an email, hello@thetaxvalet.com. We'd love to hear from you.